Taurus 44 in 44 Magnum. Let's check it out. Guys, there's just something about big bore calibers. I mean, they're powerful, especially the Magnum calibers when it comes to a 44 Magnum and a number of others. And they've really designed some really powerful calibers. But I'm a big fan of 44 Magnum. It's got a lot of power behind it, and yet it's manageable, it's controllable. But it still has a lot of recoil. This is the Taurus 44. And it's in 44 Magnum. This is the 4-inch model. They do make other versions. The 4-inch barrel, though, is ported, which, while it still has recoil that comes back in your hand, it really tames the muzzle rise. And so it's honestly a pleasure to shoot, but after a while, it'll really work on your hands. And we really appreciate Gun Zone Deals for sending the Taurus Model 44. This has been a blast. Taurus 44. This is a 4-inch barrel, stainless steel, large frame revolver. It's double single action, has really soft rubberized grips, and of course the stainless finish is just a brushed matte stainless. The caliber 44 Magnum is a powerful round used for hunting all over the world. I mean, it is definitely a powerhouse. Now let's go ahead and check to make sure the gun's unloaded. We push forward on our cylinder release, and it's 6 rounds, and it is a large cylinder. In fact, again, it is a really large pistol, and it's heavy. This is a little bit larger than their Tracker, which the Tracker is a 5-round capacity, stainless steel finish, and it has kind of a matte finish to it, so it doesn't glare, but it's going to be great for weather resistance. Now, why in the world would you want a 44 Magnum in a 4-inch barrel? But one of the big reasons is this goes well on your hip, especially if you're in bear country, you're hiking, you're camping, or you're hunting and you want something that's really capable on your side. Especially if a deer comes up behind you in an awkward position where you can't get your rifle, 44 Magnum really comes in handy. But one thing that really helps with recoil for your 44 Magnum, because it does pack a punch, is that the barrel is ported. And so we have 8 ports at the end of the barrel, and it really keeps the muzzle at a very level place while you're shooting. One of the things about 44 is it can kind of come up, pop up. With those gases coming up, it keeps the muzzle down by pushing it down. And so it just really helps with felt recoil. And then you have this rubberized grip, which actually is really nice. And it even has some cushioning here at the back. And to be honest with you, it's nice. 44 Magnum can be a little bit punishing, but this just gives you a little more comfort. And I believe there's some other aftermarket grips, like Hogue makes some that may even be a better option. But it's really a nice looking grip, and it has the Taurus logo here on the bottom. With the cylinder release, it's kind of a satin color, but it's different and also matches the hammer. It's a very nice design, very ergonomic. But because that cylinder is so large, it doesn't just flop out. I mean, you got to mean to push it out. Very free moving, and it's a very slick firearm. I love the shroud at the bottom, and it does take your ejector rod and keep it protected. And then, of course, this gives you a little extra weight at the front. And the trigger also has that kind of a brushed stainless that kind of matches the other parts here. Adjustable sights, and these are really nice. Now they're blacked out, but they're windage and elevation adjustable. And here at the front we have an orange insert. And so these sights are going to be fairly easy to see. It has a hammer forged barrel, which is going to give you extended life, and especially with, Magnum loads, that's even more important. It does come in a 6-inch, and I believe it comes in an 8-inch version. And the little bit longer barrel lengths are going to give you increased velocity and increased foot-pounds of energy at the end. But again, it's a little more difficult to carry every day when you have something like this on your side for those dangerous encounters. Now, 44 Magnum was actually derived from the 44 Special, which was designed in 1907. And this is a really strong straight case, and then it has a rim. And these were used for a number of years and still are today. And you can fire the 44 Special in your 44 Magnum revolver or lever action rifle. And then this is a cowboy load here, this in 44 Special. A little bit smaller, a little bit smoky, made to shoot like that. But one of the things you'll notice is the case difference with the 44 Magnum is just a touch longer. And this was done by Elmer Keefe back in 1955, looking for a caliber that would really have a punch to it, and thus the 44 Magnum. One thing about the 44 Special is it's very similar to the 38 Special in that you can fit the 38 Special in a 357 Magnum revolver. And so it kind of gives you both. And one of the things a lot of people do is they'll have their 44 Magnum loads for hunting or for serious work, but they'll typically shoot more of the 44 Specials because the recoil is considerably less. In fact, 44 Magnum can average about 1,300 feet per second, while you come in with a 44 Special and it averages about 900 feet per second. So there's a considerable amount of difference in velocity, and thus for recoil and also for the energy that hits the target. And so it gives you that really high velocity, knockdown power, and yet you can go back to the 44 Specials and you can shoot those. Probably similar to your 45 Colt in your medium loads. But guys, there are a ton of different load options out there for the 44 Specials and 44 Magnums. Guys, under the hood, I mean, it's just got a smooth finish. The ejector rod comes out really smooth. The finishing on this revolver is excellent. I mean, I'll have to give it to Taurus for that. It's a really nice job. Now, as far as the lockup goes, just a teeny bit of play, but it is very little. This does come on the heels of the Tracker again, which is a 5-shot. This one goes to 6. It doesn't have the vent ribs that a lot of them have, which honestly I don't really care for. I like the smooth lines of this revolver. It's just like a tool. I mean, it just is kind of utilitarian in a sense, and yet it has a beauty all its own. Taurus is kind of the underdog with the revolver world, but they still make some really nice revolvers and have been making revolvers for decades. And there's a reason why that they're so popular, and mainly because of the price. I mean, these come in at a very reasonable price compared to some of the bigger companies. Yeah, you may have a few things with the smoothness of the trigger, or honestly, I don't know that you can change anything about the finish because this is done extremely well. In fact, at one point, Smith and Wesson actually owned Taurus. The Taurus over the years has had a few issues here and there, but they have really stepped up their game over the past 5 to 6 years. And now I own a number of Tauruses, and I'm proud to own them. I mean, they're good, solid firearms. Sometimes, again, I pull out my more expensive guns, but if I want a workhorse, this would be an excellent choice. And if I was on a budget and really needed a 44 Magnum, this would be my choice. Now, let's check out the trigger pull. We're going to leave it double action first. We have a very nice, smooth, and then a break. Now, it's not a consistent smooth pull because it comes to about right here, and then it starts to just get a little bit more tension. But once you hit that wall for the tension, it is pretty consistent as well. Let's check our trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. We're going to do double action first. 10 pounds, 3 ounces. 9 pounds, 10 ounces. Around the 10-pound mark, but I'm going to tell you guys, when you pull it, it just doesn't feel that heavy, mainly because it's so smooth coming back. We'll try single action. 5 pounds, 9.9 ounces. We've tested this a number of times. It is coming in at about 5.5 pounds. And the single action, guys, it's not a hair trigger, but it's nice. Now, this isn't a Smith and Wesson trigger because, I mean, they're just really excellent, or Colt, or even Ruger. But it's still a really smooth, consistent trigger pull. And really, for a large revolver like this, it's a very smooth action on this revolver. We have some UMC 180 grain. This is jacketed soft point. We have some specials and 44 Magnum. This stuff is really difficult to get right now, so just glad to have it. And I really appreciate Robbie Wheaton for pulling these out. Man, that's a big cylinder. Now, there's a lot of reasons why people shy away from big bore, especially Magnum revolvers. There's just a lot of power. And guys, honestly, if you're not used to shooting, taking out a big bore Magnum load really is a handful. But one of the big things about 44 Magnum is it has a lot of power coming out of the barrel. And so it's just part of physics. You have a very heavy grain bullet coming out at really high velocities, and so it makes it very effective. Especially against pretty much anything on the North American continent, and possibly even in most of Africa. I mean, the 44 Magnum has been proven for a long time to be a very effective hunting round, and for that matter, also a self-defense round. It is limited to 6 rounds, but guys, honestly, once you fire those 6 rounds, you're ready to take a little break, and then you reload it and go for the next 6. Now, with this rubber grip, it does soften the recoil, and there is a little bit of cushioning back at the back. Most of the recoil, though, does come back into your hand. It doesn't come up. It doesn't seem to twist your wrist, which some Magnum loads will. But with those ported barrels, it just keeps the muzzle really flat.
Woo! Man, that's all right. That is all right.
And you have a cold hammer forged barrel to give you some extended life, which is important, especially if you're firing that really heavy 44 Magnum loads. And guys, the sky's the limit as far as it comes to 44 Magnum. You can shoot just 44 specials. It's really easy to shoot, and then you can move up to 44 Magnum, and then you can move up to really high pressure 44 Magnums. And again, it just makes it more effective. But guys, I'll tell you this, you fire this a few times and you've got a handful. Now here we're shooting 44 specials, and you can see that the recoil is very manageable, it's very mild. And then when you switch to the 44 Magnum, you're definitely getting a lot more recoil. And of course there's a lot more flame coming out the end of the barrel. But there's definitely a big difference between the two. And also shooting it double action, with the trigger pull, shooting it through, and that's typically what you're going to use in a hunting situation or even a self-defense situation. But for accuracy, it makes it nice to be able to shoot it single action by pulling that hammer back each time you fire. It just allows you to get on your sights a little better and a little more steady. But you should always practice double action if you have a double single action revolver. Now it's 9.37 inches in length. It's about 6 inches in height. And the width is 1.8 inches, and that would be here at the cylinder. So again, guys, it's really thick. But I'll tell you, it has a beautiful finish on it. Now we've taken this and cleaned it up some. Still didn't quite get all the powder burn off here, the sight from those ports, but it does clean up really nice. But let's take a look at it before I cleaned it. Now when firing this pistol, it does put out a lot of energy. And you can see right here at the ports, I mean, it really fouls this up. But this is typical. Also, right around the front of the chamber or the cylinder, I mean, it's black all around the forcing cone, and then right here at the back of the frame. So, you know, it's going to really require you to really check this out and keep this clean after going to the range, because it gets really dirty. And the weight on the Model 44. 2 pounds, 13.6 ounces, or 45.6 ounces. Now, when the Revolver arrived, it did have this little sleeve that went over to protect the back sight. I thought that was a nice touch. This is just a rubberized piece. A lot of times you see these hard plastic, but this is something you could actually keep, especially if you're traveling. Keep that right there and protect your sight and protect your accuracy. And you'll notice back here at the back of the hammer, there is a lock, and you can lock down your firearm. There are 2 of these keys, and it just disables the trigger. But I'm not a big fan of these. But if you have small kids at home, or you just feel like that's a situation you need, then it's there. And guys, one of my favorite revolvers is the Taurus Judge. I mean, this thing is crazy big, and yet it's capable with your 410 shells, or you can go with the 45 Colt. So it kind of gives you 2 different options. And this really kind of turned me back on to Taurus revolvers. But it just seems like I'm going with the big boys, because this 44, honestly, to me, is a more quality firearm than even your Taurus Judge. This is a lot of fun. In fact, I keep this in my shop above the door where it's really handy in case I ever need it. But with this 44 Magnum, I'd probably blow the doors off. Now guys, as far as the price, the MSRP on the Model 44 is $722.03 on the Taurus website. Guns on Deals has these for $576.99. So that's the market price. The Smith and Wesson Model 29 standard blue, it retails for $1,051. And then you go with your Ruger Red Hawk in 44 with the 4-inch barrel, and they're $1,299. So you can see that Taurus comes in at a much more reasonable price, and yet it has a lot of great features. Am I saying that it's the exact same quality as the Smith or the Ruger? You know, not necessarily. But Taurus has built up a really good reputation around their revolvers. And guys, actually, on a side note, it doesn't matter to me personally whether you get a Taurus, Smith and Wesson, or a Ruger. Nate from Guns on Deals sent this, so it doesn't really matter about the brand. But I think that Taurus has really stepped up their game, and I think this makes an excellent 44 Special, again, at a reasonable price. Now, why would you want something like this, a short 44 Magnum revolver? To me, if I'm, out, especially in bear country or, where there's large predators, having 44 Magnum on your hip is definitely comforting. I mean, it's got a lot of power behind it. But you do have your 10 millimeter, which you can put up to 15 rounds, and so you've only got 6 rounds with the 44 Magnum. But the 44 is definitely more powerful than your 10 millimeter. But that's just a matter of choice. As far as carrying this on my hip as a sidearm, especially when I'm hunting, and also for self-defense, this is an excellent self-defense caliber. And I mean, there are so many different choices with 44 Magnum. You can go down all the way to the 44 Special and run it all the way up to really high pressure 44 Magnum loads. Yes, it's heavy, and that's one of the downsides. And it only carries 6 rounds in the chamber. But, it's according to the application. So guys, if you want to know my honest opinion, I'm going to give it to you right now. Taurus has not always been great on quality control. They've had their issues, no doubt. And with any firearm, there are a number of guns that can have problems. And so that has tainted my judgment toward Taurus in the past. But I have changed that opinion, and it's just, they are really producing some nice firearms. I love the ported barrel. It does shoot out flames, but I love it because it really helps keep that muzzle down, and it does tame the recoil. Yeah, you feel it some in your hand, and you're not going to shoot a steady diet of this. You're not going to go through 500 rounds at the range. But it's still a nice gun to shoot, and then you switch it out to 44 Specials, and it's real easy to shoot. The finish is exceptional. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the finish. It looks really nice. Just has that matte stainless color to it, and again, it's going to help it to be more weather resistant. The trigger is very smooth. I like the trigger. A little heavy, especially on double action, but that's just typical for most of your double single action revolvers. The lockup seems to be really nice, sturdy. Hammer forged barrel, that's always a huge plus. And they do have a lifetime warranty, which they kind of stopped that for about a year, and then they went right back to it. It's a large revolver. It's not something I would carry every day, obviously, but for going hunting, I think this would be an excellent choice. And so, you know, and for self-defense. It could be used definitely for that. But, you know, it's overall, I really like this gun, and I like the price. Would I choose this over a Smith and Wesson or a Ruger? No, not necessarily. But for a couple of $100 less in price, yeah, I would. Because a 44 Magnum is not something that I just go out and shoot, you know, every week. Now, you may be a 44 Magnum guy, you shoot a lot of them, then, you know, go with the Smith or the Ruger. You know, go with that, and that's great. But honestly, I feel like that this is a good, solid 44 Magnum. The quality looks great, and I'm very pleased with it. So guys, if you're looking for a 44 Magnum at a reasonable price, you know, Taurus usually comes in with good quality, and yet the price is much cheaper than a lot of the other firearms that are out there. And guys, taking this out to the range, it's going to give you a really good kick right in the hand. But it keeps that muzzle low, and you're going to be able to get those shots and have a little more confidence when you're firing this, especially for those second and third follow-up shots. But you know that once that round goes out, it's going to be really effective. And again, we appreciate Gun Zone Deals for sending the Taurus Model 44. They're great to send us guns to be able to test out and to bring to you guys, and we really appreciate Gun Zone Deals. Rubber Dummies is one of the best training tools on the market, and you get a 10% discount using Sootch00 when you click the link down in the description. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. So this is the Ruger. Okay. We have some UMC, what is this? And I really appreciate Robbie Wheat, a buddy of mine that pulled out a 50. Okay. Coming in, Mac. Okay. But you're gonna have to keep it clean because the fudge. Some pros and cons.